A new documentary titled Castle Hot Springs: Oasis of Time showcases the iconic Castle Hot Springs Resort and its impact on Arizona history. And here now with more on her documentary is filmmaker Kristen Atwell-Ford. Good to have you back on the show. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is another documentary from you about Arizona and us. For those who are new or haven't been to Castle Hot Springs, talk about the resort.
It's magical. It is truly an oasis out in the Bradshaw Mountains that is brought to life by the water that runs out of the ground. And that water is now used to grow food, and it has signature lawns, and it's a garden spot out in the desert.
Yeah, where is it? You say Bradshaw Mountains. How do you get there?
You go out like you're going to Wickenburg, and you turn off past Lake Pleasant, and then it's 7 miles of dirt road, which I really enjoy driving. Or you can take a helicopter these days. It used to be,
really?
When the resort first opened in the late 1800s, you would get there by stagecoach. Now you can take a helicopter.
My goodness, and some of these photos are absolutely fantastic. It is amazing, and there you go. It's the water. It's that hot. Talk about the warm. How does it get that temperature and the healing benefits that have been advertised for this place?
Well, back in the day, it was originally founded as a place to take a rest cure, to soak in the hot mineral water. Around the turn of the century, Frank and his brother Nathan Oakes Murphy, who was the territorial governor at the time, saw the potential to bring tourists from the East Coast and from, points yonder out into what was the Arizona frontier.
Yes.
Frank Murphy was moving ore out of the Vulture mine in Wickenburg and bringing tourists in on the train in the other direction. And then there was a 25-mile stagecoach ride out to the springs. It turned into a destination resort around 1905. And then it really had its first golden years in the 19-teens and 20s when war erupted in Europe. The people who would usually go overseas put their Pullman cars on trains and came west.
And some pretty high rollers wound up there, didn't they?
Well, the Rockefellers, the Nelson A. Rockefeller was still on the docket to be there in the 1970s.
Wow.
And the Pugh family, there are so many families that would come for generations and spend their winters at Castle Hot Springs.
And in World War II, I know that there's a lot of recuperation there, including one very famous person.
One very famous person. So the resort during the war was leased to the Army Air Force. It was one entity back then. And a young, I don't know his rank, but a young soldier, John F. Kennedy, came to recuperate after his PT boat accident in the Pacific. And he stayed for about 3 months and is part of the legendary guest ledger of Castle Hot Springs.
Now, am I wrong here? Do I remember a fire out there at one point? I seem to recall. True?
So that was the end of the original era. Was in 1976, there was a pre-season fire. And it took out the Palm House, which is the largest guest lodging on the property at the time.
Yes.
May Sue Talley was the owner, and she gifted the property at that point to ASU Foundation, and ASU ran it for about 6 years as a retreat center. In fact, the 1980 Groundwater Act was decided in a sequestered group out at Castle Hot Springs.
Maybe if we get them back there again for the 2026 one, because it's not going very well right now.
Well, we all need to work together, right?
Yes, we do. You had Peter Coyote was the narrator?
Isn't he the best?
That's a big get.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to work with Peter Coyote on several of my films with my team at Quantum Leap Productions. He's just the voice of the West, and he's a dream to work with.
How was it for you to get all this stuff together, to compile this information? Was it difficult? Did it come out of corners you never expected?
It was a dream come true because, first of all, Mike and Cindy Watts, when they bought the property and refurbished it, they cared deeply about Arizona and the history of the property in the state. And so we went around and were able to forge relationship with Charlotte Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona State Library, Arizona Historical Society, ASU, People were sending us personal scrapbooks of their grandparents when they were cleaning out closets. It's a lot of people and elements.
And vintage clips from Cecil B. DeMille?
You got it. He filmed a film called The Squaw Man out there during the Depression.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And Barry Goldwater, obviously.
Barry Goldwater, we were gifted fabulous footage, colors, 16 millimeter footage that he shot in the 50s, which was another heyday after the war when people started traveling in cars.
So what is the state of the resort now?
If you can imagine the most amazing nature experience coupled with luxury beyond your wildest dreams,
Yes.
that is the state of the resort. And it really truly is a miracle that it's open to the public after being dormant for almost 50 years.
Yeah, I heard it was, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if I've been up there or not. It feels like I was up there and it wasn't in the best of shape, so maybe that's not true. But it's like a Garden of Eden. I've heard that so many times.
It truly is, and the development of the resort really mirrors the development in the state of bringing people west, having them invest. In fact, Fowler McCormick, who was J.D. Rockefeller's grandson, went in to look at a parcel in Scottsdale in the early 40s. That became McCormick Ranch.
There you
and we
go.
have things like McCormick Stillman Railroad Park because that family donated that piece of land.
Maybe you got a new film coming up here. Where can we watch this one real quickly?
Amazon Prime Video and Canopy.
Canopy.
And Apple TV, and you can see it at the resort with a glass of wine.
Oh my goodness, that sounds fantastic. Kristen Atwell Ford, again, congratulations on this documentary.
so
It must have been fun.
Time of my life.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ted.